Okay, let's unpack this. Think about the last time you tried to do something simple on your phone or computer.
Yeah.
Maybe book a ticket, file a report, I don't know, just update your profile picture. And the interface, it just fought you every single step.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Buttons didn't work, you couldn't find what you needed. It felt like navigating this maze designed by someone who secretly hates you.
Right. It's that feeling you get when technology, which is supposed to make things easier, just ends up wasting your time
Mm,
and raising your blood pressure. You
holy.
think of those older software systems from like the early 2000s,
Right.
overwhelming screens packed with cryptic options.
Ah.
You're just hunting for simple functions.
Right. That frustration is universal. And it's a sign, isn't it, that the design isn't working for you.
Exactly.
It impacts our productivity, our mood, even our willingness to use certain tools. And, even the people building these things struggle to get it just right.
But here's the crucial insight from the material we dug into. There are fundamental, proven principles that determine whether an interface is usable or just a source of constant annoyance.
Ah.
Understanding these principles is like getting a decoder ring for the digital world around us.
And that is exactly our mission in this deep dive. We're
Yeah.
taking this stack of sources you shared, all focused on what makes interfaces usable,
Hmm.
and we're going to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge. We want to cut through the noise, really, and give you a clear understanding of why some digital experiences delight you and others. Well, they make you want to throw your device across the room.
Definitely.
So let's start with something you hear all the time. Usability versus user experience, or UX. They're often used interchangeably, aren't they? But the material makes a really important distinction. What's the core difference there?
Well, what's fascinating here is the focus. Usability is specific. It's about how easy and efficient an interface is to use. Like, can you complete a task quickly, accurately, without hitting roadblocks? It's very functional.
Okay, so usability is about the nuts and bolts of interaction, like does the button work? Can I find the menu? That kind of thing. UX sounds much broader.
It is. User experience, UX, that's the entire journey a user has with a product or service. It's not just the interface itself.
Right.
It includes their emotions, their perceptions, how they feel about the whole interaction, the brand, everything involved.
So if usability is how you interact, UX is more like how you feel about that interaction, plus the whole ecosystem around it.
Exactly. And the key takeaway here, I think, is that usability isn't separate from UX. It's a fundamental component of it.
Oh, okay.
Think of that diagram described in the material. At the very center is utility. Like, does this thing actually do something useful for me?
And if it doesn't do anything useful, then it doesn't really matter how easy it is to use, right?
Precisely. Utility is, well, it's non-negotiable. Then the next layer out is usability. This is where we measure if it's easy to use, efficient, and if you can actually accomplish your goals with it.
So utility first, then usability. What's next?
Beyond usability is desirability. This layer captures the emotional appeal as, the aesthetics, the brand's personality, whether you want to use it, not just if you can.
Okay, so I can use it. That's usability, and I like how it feels or looks. That's desirability.
Right. And then the outermost layer, that encompasses the complete brand experience.
Hmm.
This is how the product fits into your life, your long-term relationship with the brand, everything that extends beyond just the immediate interaction with the interface.
That diagram really helps visualize it. So the big picture is usability is crucial. It deals with the functional ease, but the full user experience wraps around that. It incorporates feelings, the brand, the context.
Hmm.
You can't have great UX without good usability, but good usability alone isn't the whole story of UX.
Exactly. And to really dig into what makes interfaces usable, the sources point to the foundational work of Jacob Nielsen. He's often called a renowned usability expert,
Right.
and he broke usability down into 5 core components.
And the material emphasizes that these aren't just isolated ideas, are they? They work together as an interconnected system. Like, they form the bedrock for how we evaluate and design interfaces.
Exactly. Let's break down each one. But yeah, always remember they influence each other.
Okay, first up, and this one feels critical for that all-important first impression, learnability.
Hmm.
How easy is it for you, a first-time user, to figure out the basics and accomplish tasks without, needing training?
This is make or break. Seriously.
Right.
Users decide very quickly if an interface is worth their time and effort.
Yeah, I bet.
Good learnability welcomes you in. It guides you naturally. Poor learnability feels like being dropped into a foreign country without a map, basically.
That professional 3D modeling software example from the sources perfectly illustrates poor learnability for a beginner, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You open it up and boom, dozens of tools, panels, complex menus everywhere. It's incredibly powerful, sure, but the sheer overwhelm creates this massive, daunting learning curve.
And the type of interface also heavily impacts learnability. That's highlighted by that comparison table idea in the sources.
Right.
Graphical interfaces with icons. Generally easier to pick up than, say, command line interfaces where you have to memorize specific text commands.
Makes sense. I see a picture, I know roughly what it does. With a command line, I have to remember the exact word or phrase.
Exactly. And touch interfaces, they leverage gestures we already do in the physical world. VR. That requires learning completely new interaction patterns.
Okay.
Menu-driven systems, they tend to score high because they show you your options clearly.
Hmm.
While direct manipulation, like drag and drop, that works well because it mirrors how you'd move objects in the real world.
So what are the design secrets then? How do you make an interface learnable?
Well, the sources list some key principles. Use familiar patterns and conventions people already know.
Like putting the save button where you expect it.
Exactly. Provide clear visual hierarchy so the important stuff stands out. Minimize cognitive load. Don't make people remember too much at once.
Mm-hmm.
Offer helpful onboarding, maybe a quick tour or tooltips the first time. And ensure consistent behavior buttons always do what you expect them to do.
Right.
These principles help users quickly build a mental model of how the system works.
Okay. So the core takeaway for learnability is really about minimizing that initial confusion and cognitive effort. If users can't get started, they'll likely just bail, right? No matter how amazing the features are deeper inside.
Absolutely. Investing in learnability is investing in getting users to stick around.
Yeah.
Long-term success.
Okay, so that's learnability, getting started. What about once you know the system?
Right. Now, once a user has learned the system and uses it regularly, the focus shifts to efficiency.
Ah,
This component measures how quickly and productively experienced users can perform tasks.
so learnability is for the newbie, efficiency is for the pro. Kind of.
Precisely. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. It's about optimizing for speed and flow for the power user.
Okay, that makes sense. How is efficiency achieved after you've learned the ropes? What makes an interface efficient?
Well, the material points out that efficient interfaces often offer features specifically for experienced users. Things like keyboard shortcuts for frequently used actions.
Oh yeah, those are lifesavers.
Right. Or allowing batch processing for repetitive tasks. Or letting users customize their workspace.
Mm-hmm.
Think about like editing software or financial platforms. The pros, they need ways to fly through complex operations, not just click through simple menus again and again.
Got it.
Efficiency is really about removing friction once the user knows the path.
Got it. So learnability gets them in. Efficiency keeps the experienced users productive and happy. What's next in Nielsen's list?
The third component is memorability.
Memorability. Okay.
This is about how easily users can jump back into using an interface after they haven't touched it for a while.
Ugh, the dreaded forgetting curve. I definitely feel that when I use software only, like once every few months. You come back and it's like, where was that setting again?
It's a real thing. And good design fights against that natural decay of memory. The stapler example from the sources is perfect.
A stapler.
Yeah, it's a physical object, obviously, but its design is so intuitive and consistent globally. You could not use one for a year and instantly remember how to load staples or use it. That's high memorability.
Contrast that with trying to remember how to do some specific multi-step process in complex software you used last quarter. You're just clicking around, trying to jog your memory, feeling lost.
Exactly. Poor memorability costs users time and causes frustration every single time they return after a break. It's a recurring pain point.
So how do designers make interfaces more memorable? What helps you remember?
Again, consistency is absolutely key. Using familiar patterns, standard layouts, clear visual hierarchy. If the save button is always, say, a floppy disk icon or whatever the current standard is,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always in the same general area, you're much more likely to recall it without thinking.
Right.
Well-designed mobile apps that use standard navigation conventions, those are great examples of memorable interfaces. You just kind of know where things will be.
Memorability sounds vital for user retention then. If it's easy to pick up where you left off, you're much more likely to come back and have a positive experience, even for things you don't use daily.
Definitely. Okay, so we've learned it, learnability.
Mm-hmm.
We can use it quickly if we're pros, efficiency, and we can remember it after time away, memorability. But what happens when things go wrong?
Ah.
That brings us to error prevention.
This seems like a huge one. Nothing kills satisfaction faster than making a mistake and not knowing how to fix it, or worse, the interface letting you make a mistake it totally could have prevented.
Absolutely. And the material emphasizes that preventing errors in the first place is vastly more effective than just handling them after they occur.
Prevention over cure, basically. Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about filling out an online form with real-time validation.
Okay.
As you type, it instantly tells you if your email format is wrong, or if you skipped a required field, or if your password doesn't meet the criteria.
Right there as you're typing.
Yeah. It stops you from hitting submit with incorrect information. That's error prevention in action. It nips the problem in the bud.
Compared to filling out the whole form, hitting submit, and then getting some vague error 404 message or something completely unhelpful.
Precisely. The sources contrast those poor, unhelpful error messages, maybe just a technical code or vague statement, with good ones.
What makes a good error message?
Good ones are specific, they're polite, and they actually give you actionable guidance on what went wrong and how to fix it. A good error message is part of recovery, sure, but prevention is always better.
And since mistakes are still inevitable sometimes, what about recovery options?
Good interfaces build in clear recovery options. Think undo button's a lifesaver. Or confirmation dialogues before you perform a potentially destructive action, like deleting something important. Are you sure?
Yes.
Or autosave features, so you don't lose all your work if something crashes or you forget to save.
So the principles for effective error prevention and handling based on the sources are: be clear and specific, use polite and helpful language and messages, provide actionable solutions, and make recovery quick and easy. Is that about right?
Yes, that sums it up nicely.
Yeah.
Implementing these principles makes an interface much more forgiving and, frankly, user-friendly.
Right.
Preventing errors reduces frustration dramatically, increases the rate at which users successfully complete tasks, and just creates a far more satisfying experience overall.
Okay, which brings us nicely to the last of Nielsen's 5 components: satisfaction. This isn't just about completing a task, is it? It's about how pleasant and, I guess, enjoyable the interface is to use.
This is where the emotional response really comes to the forefront. A satisfying interface makes users want to come back. It feels good to use.
So it's about how it looks, how it feels to interact with, and the overall positive feeling it evokes.
Exactly. The material contrasts a satisfying interface where a user feels engaged, happy, they receive clear feedback, interactions are smooth, maybe the aesthetics are pleasant,
Right.
resulting in a positive emotional response, versus the negative response you get from something with poor design that makes you feel anxious or annoyed, like hitting that ominous, unhelpful error message we talked about.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't create satisfaction.
No. Bad design actively harms satisfaction. But good design can use expressive elements to build positive emotions. Things like well-chosen emoticons, pleasant confirmation sounds.
Little dings or swooshes.
Yeah. Intuitive icons that just feel right. Helpful animations that provide feedback or guide you smoothly through a process. All these little things add up.
I can see how that would lead to higher retention and loyalty. If an interface makes you feel good, you're going to stick with it and probably tell others about it too.
Absolutely.
Yep.
The key takeaways on satisfaction are that it measures that emotional response, pleasant design fosters positive feelings, satisfied users are loyal and they recommend the product, and thoughtful design elements specifically aimed at emotional response enhance that satisfaction. It has a direct impact on the product's success.
That makes sense. It's the whole feeling.
The material offers a fantastic real-world example that brings all these 5 components together. The humble ATM.
ATM. Okay, yeah. Millions of people use them every day, right?
Yeah.
Across all levels of tech comfort.
Exactly. It's a great test case.
Ah.
Let's analyze it using Nielsen's 5.
Okay.
So, learnability. ATMs are brilliant here. They use familiar icons, simple language like cash withdrawal or check balance,
Yeah, very straightforward.
clear visual cues like arrows showing you where to insert your card. You can usually figure it out the first time, even if you've never used that specific machine before.
Yep, very low barrier to entry. What about efficiency?
ATMs excel here for experienced users, for the core tasks anyway. The main functions are prominent, the transaction flow is incredibly streamlined.
True.
Once you've used one a few times, you can typically get your cash in, under 30 seconds after inserting your card? They're optimized for speed for that core task.
And memorability. How easy is it to remember after not using one for a while?
Very high, I'd say. The layout, the sequence of operations, the look and feel are incredibly consistent across different banks and locations worldwide.
That's true. They mostly look the same.
Yeah. Learn one, you can pretty much use any of them, even if it's been months since your last visit.
Okay, how do they do on error prevention?
Also, very well designed, actually. They have built-in safeguards, clear confirmations before dispensing cash, timeout warnings if you walk away mid-transaction.
Right, it beeps at you.
Yeah, step-by-step instructions. And a classic example of prevention is making you take your card before it gives you the cash.
Oh, I never thought about that sequence properly.
It prevents you from accidentally leaving your card behind, which must have been a common error at some point.
Oh, that little delay before the cash comes out after taking the card, that makes so much sense now. It's not just slow. It's designed to prevent a common mistake. Clever.
Exactly. And finally, satisfaction.
Okay, it's not exactly a flashy design, is it? But I guess satisfaction comes from its reliability and simplicity. You know it's going to work.
Yes, exactly that. Users trust ATMs because they consistently perform the core task quickly and securely. The satisfaction isn't from some beautiful animation. It's from the dependable, simple interaction that gets the job done without hassle.
So the ATM really shows that achieving excellent usability for billions doesn't require complex or fancy interfaces. It's about nailing those 5 core components: learnability, efficiency, memorability, error prevention, and satisfaction.
Well said. It's a testament to focusing on the fundamentals.
Okay, so shifting focus a bit, the material talks about streamlining mobile navigation specifically. With such limited screen space, how do you make it effortless to find information and complete tasks on a phone?
Yeah, that's a huge challenge. It feels like the key has to be an intuitive structure, something that just guides you where you need to go without making you think too hard.
Exactly. You don't want to get lost in the app.
Absolutely. And the example provided illustrates this perfectly. Using something like a side menu that organizes options into clear categories, recently viewed, favorites, settings, placing the user profile prominently, maybe at the top, and crucially, only including the essential functions to avoid that feeling of clutter. Keep it focused.
And icons must be absolutely fundamental here, right?
They
Given
do.
the space constraints.
They are non-negotiable, clear, recognizable icons. They need to be minimalist, use universal symbols where possible, maintain a consistent style throughout the app, be sized appropriately for touch so you can actually tap them easily, and have high contrast so you can see them clearly. They are basically visual shortcuts for concepts.
So the principles for streamlined mobile navigation mentioned in the sources are having a logical hierarchy that matches how users think,
Right, their mental model.
ensuring the design is touch-friendly, so buttons are big enough for fingers, not tiny targets,
Yes.
and making sure things are easily discoverable without endless searching or tapping around.
Exactly. When these elements come together, logical structure, clear icons, touch friendliness, discoverability, they create a clear path from the moment you open the app to successfully completing your goal.
You can navigate quickly and confidently without that frustrating confusion we talked about at the start.
Right. That reduces cognitive load, speeds up getting things done, boosts satisfaction, and means users are much less likely to just give up on the app and uninstall it.
Yeah, lower abandonment rates.
Right. Streamlined mobile navigation is really about combining clear visual language, intuitive labels, and logical structure so the user can focus on what they want to do, not spend time figuring out how to use the app itself.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, the sources also peer into the future of interface design, talking about some cutting-edge approaches we might see become more common. They even mentioned 2025 as a time frame for some of this stuff.
Yeah, some really interesting developments. One big area is AI-powered personalization. This is about interfaces that aren't static anymore. They adapt in real time by learning about the user.
Okay, adapting interfaces. How do they learn? What factors do they actually consider?
Well, the material lists 4 key things. First, user behavior, what you click on, how long you spend on things, your stated preferences if you give them.
Right.
Second, your device type, screen size, input method like touch versus mouse. Third, your environmental context, your location, the time of day, maybe even what you're doing, like if you're walking versus sitting.
Wow. Oh.
And fourth, critically, your user intent, what it thinks you're trying to achieve, maybe inferred from your search patterns or navigation behavior.
That e-commerce example they gave is fascinating. You add a sofa to your cart, and the AI instantly recommends complimentary throw pillows or rugs based on its analysis of all these factors.
Exactly. It's not just a static, people who bought this also bought this list anymore.
No.
It's tailoring it to you right now based on your context and past behavior.
Or those educational platforms that adapt the learning path based on the specific learner, their environment, like are they on a phone during a commute or a desktop at home, and their device, adapting the content and interaction style.
Yeah, making it much more relevant and effective. And recognizing user intent, that feels really powerful. If I search for account balance, the system understands I likely want to see my specific account details, not just generic information about what an account balance is.
Right. It anticipates your needs.
Exactly. It's about anticipating needs based on context and behavior. And the benefits are significant. Increased engagement, because the content is more relevant, improved conversion rates because the experience is targeted, and enhanced satisfaction because users feel understood and valued by the system.
Okay, AI personalization. What's next on the cutting edge?
The next evolution the sources discuss is emotionally intelligent micro-interactions.
Emotionally intelligent. Wow.
Yeah. This takes the idea of subtle feedback like animations or sounds and pushes it further. The interface actually tries to detect the user's emotional state and respond appropriately.
Okay, wait. An interface that knows if I'm frustrated? How would it even do that? That sounds like sci-fi.
Well, it looks for cues in your behavior, according to the material. Are you hitting multiple form errors in a row? Spending an unusually long time on what should be a simple task? Repeatedly trying the same action that's failing?
Ah, okay. Patterns of struggle.
Exactly. These could signal frustration.
And how would it respond if it detects that?
By adapting its approach. Maybe it offers more detailed tips or hints. Maybe it softens the tone of the error messages, makes them gentler. Or it could proactively offer a link to human support.
So it shifts from just stating an error to actively trying to help you recover and feel less annoyed.
Precisely. And on the flip side, if you're doing well,
Yeah.
it celebrates success. When you complete a complex task or reach a milestone, the interface might use delightful animations, positive visual or audio feedback, little bursts of reinforcement. It makes you feel accomplished and motivates continued engagement.
That pull to refresh gesture where you drag down and see a little animation while it updates, that's a simple micro interaction, isn't it? But it feels good. There's anticipation, a sense of control.
It's a perfect subtle example. It builds anticipation and delivers that little moment of satisfaction or even delight when the new content appears. Emotionally intelligent process flows apply this idea more broadly. They guide users through complex tasks, trying to manage their emotional state along the way. Reducing anxiety by clearly showing progress, providing immediate direction if the user seems lost, celebrating those small milestones to keep motivation high.
This feels like a fundamental shift, doesn't it? Interfaces moving beyond just being functional tools to actually trying to understand and support our emotional state as we interact with them. That's kind of profound.
It absolutely is. By understanding and adapting to how users feel, interfaces can become more engaging, more supportive, and ultimately more deeply usable because they are designed with human needs and emotions right at the center.
Okay. And finally, in these cutting-edge trends, the sources talk about gesture-first interfaces, described as the next step in human-computer interaction, going beyond simple taps and swipes.
Right. Traditional touch interaction, it relies on basic gestures like tapping, swiping, pinching. It's effective, sure, but it's also kind of limited in its expressiveness and efficiency, especially for complex tasks.
And gesture-first takes that much further. How so?
Dramatically. It recognizes more complex hand movements, things like multi-finger combinations, spatial hand movements in 3D space, even gestures you make in the air without touching anything.
Whoa!
It allows users to perform complex actions using motions that feel more natural, mirroring how we interact with physical objects in the real world.
Spatial interactions in 3D space, like manipulating virtual objects just with my hands, like in the movie.
Exactly like that. You could point at elements in a virtual environment, use specific hand shapes to select items, or move and rotate virtual objects with gestures that mimic real-world actions.
Okay.
The material gives the example of controlling menus or selecting items in a virtual interface just by using hand gestures tracked in real time, without needing a mouse or even a physical controller, just your hands.
The benefits sound huge efficiency, reduced cognitive load.
They are. A single natural gesture could potentially replace multiple taps or menu selections, dramatically speeding things up.
Yeah.
It lowers the cognitive load because you're not translating your intent into button presses or menu navigation. You're using a more direct physical metaphor. It allows for much more fluid and expressive interaction.
So the future points towards interfaces becoming more natural, efficient, and expressive, kind of blending the digital and physical through gestures.
Exactly. Expect to see gesture-first interfaces become standard, first probably in immersive experiences like VR and AR, then moving into productivity tools, and eventually maybe even everyday digital interactions. It's where things seem to be heading.
Fascinating stuff. Okay, but how do we know if all this design effort from the basics to the cutting edge is actually working? The sources also dive into key metrics for measuring usability, right?
Yes, putting numbers to design, it's crucial.
One metric highlighted is task success rate, or TSR.
Yeah, it's called one of the most important metrics for very good reason. It tells you, quite simply, how many users can successfully complete the tasks they intend to do using the interface.
So if 100 people try to log in and say 90 succeed without hitting errors or getting stuck somewhere, the TSR is 90%.
Precisely. The calculation is just number of correctly completed tasks, total number of attempts, 100.
Okay.
And success means completing the task correctly and reaching the desired outcome. Failure means they couldn't do it, maybe because of authentication errors, unclear messages, or just a confusing interface that stopped them in their tracks.
How do you measure this in practice? Just by watching people.
User testing sessions are key. You observe users as they attempt specific tasks and you record their success or failure.
Right.
You can also use analytics tools, heat maps, user behavior analysis. These can help show where users are dropping off or struggling, which directly impacts the TSR.
And how do you improve TSR once you know where users are failing? What do you do with that data?
You systematically identify the usability issues causing those failures, and then you fix them. A/B testing is great here.
Comparing two versions.
Yeah. You can compare a revised design against the old one and see which one results in a higher TSR. The material points out that sometimes even small design changes can lead to significant improvements in how many users successfully complete their tasks.
So TSR is a powerful, direct measure of whether your interface is actually serving its purpose for users. Tracking it and fixing the issues it reveals is crucial for building interfaces that really work.
Absolutely. Another critical usability metric mentioned is the user error rate.
Okay.
This directly measures how often users fail to complete tasks successfully because they made a mistake.
Which sounds like it would correlate pretty strongly with task success rate, but it focuses specifically on the errors users make along the way.
Exactly. It's calculated as failed tasks, total tasks, 100. And a high error rate, well, it has major consequences. Users get frustrated, they often abandon tasks, and their satisfaction plummets.
So the goal is obviously to get that error rate as low as possible. How do the sources say you do that? We touched on this with prevention.
Right. Well, first, clear, specific instructions help a lot. Contrast poor instructions like just fill out the form with good ones that give step-by-step guidance, explaining exactly what info is needed where. And helpful error messages are crucial. As we discussed, they need to explain what went wrong, why, and crucially, how to fix it, not just some vague code.
Right. Clear instructions and helpful error messages help users recover from mistakes they do make. But the best approach mentioned earlier was prevention, wasn't it?
Absolutely. The most effective way to reduce error rates is to prevent errors from happening in the first place.
Okay.
This means implementing things like confirmation dialogues before destructive actions. Be sure you want to delete. Real-time input validation as you type, like we discussed with forms. Disabling buttons until all necessary requirements are met. Providing clear warnings before critical changes are made.
Implementing those sound like they could dramatically reduce the number of errors people actually make.
They absolutely can.
Yeah.
The material gives examples of error rates dropping significantly, sometimes from like 25% down to single digits, just by implementing these kinds of prevention techniques.
Wow.
Lower error rates mean better usability. Plain and simple. Users complete tasks successfully, they feel less frustrated, and they're much more likely to keep using and even recommending the interface.
Okay, that makes total sense. Now, finally, none of this happens perfectly the first time, right? The material describes iterative design as a fundamental approach that transforms good interfaces into great ones.
Yes, this is so important. It's not a one-and-done deal.
It sounds like a continuous process, a cycle.
Exactly. It's a cyclical process of continuously designing, testing, analyzing, and then refining the interface based on real user feedback and data, not guesswork.
So it's like you plan, gather requirements, design something, build it, test it with users, see what breaks, and then start that whole cycle over again based on what you learned.
Precisely. The material outlines that cycle clearly. Initial planning, gather requirements, designalize, implement, develop, test, evaluate, and then it loops right back. It's the complete opposite of designing something in a vacuum and just hoping it works out.
And the heart of this process seems to be that regular usability testing you mentioned earlier, finding out where real people struggle.
It absolutely is. Testing reveals problems that even the designers themselves might miss: issues with navigation, things that are hard to read, areas where users consistently make errors, performance bottlenecks, confusion in the user flow. All sorts of things come out in testing.
And each time you go through the cycle, you're building on what you learned from the previous round?
Yes, exactly. Each iteration builds on the previous one. You might start with basic wireframes and core functionality, then use testing feedback from that first round to improve the navigation in the next iteration, then maybe optimize performance in a later one, or enhance accessibility based on testing with diverse users. It's constant refinement.
And development methodologies like Agile, they support this kind of iterative approach.
They do. Methodologies like Scrum, with their short cycles, regular feedback loops, and ability to make quick course corrections, are perfectly suited for iterative design. This whole continuous improvement approach significantly reduces the risk of building an interface that ultimately fails its users.
The benefits listed in the sources really highlight why this is so important, don't they? It reduces development risk, massively improves user satisfaction, creates more genuinely usable interfaces, allows designers to adapt to changing user needs, and ultimately leads to better business outcomes.
Yeah.
It sounds like it transforms design from potential guesswork into a much more data-driven, user-focused process.
That's a perfect summary. It really does.
Okay, we've done a really deep dive here into what makes interfaces work. I think the core message coming through loud and clear is that good interface design isn't just a nice to have, is it? It's absolutely essential for a positive user experience.
Absolutely. Usability is like the bridge that takes complex technology and makes it intuitive, efficient, and maybe even enjoyable to interact with.
And you feel the difference immediately, don't you, as a user? Bad usability means frustration, giving up, walking away. Good usability fosters satisfaction, builds loyalty, makes you want to come back.
That's why the leading companies invest so heavily in this. They understand that focusing on usability directly impacts user satisfaction, keeps users engaged, and ultimately drives business success. It's not just about aesthetics.
As the sources emphasize, usability is just fundamental to human-computer interaction. It's about ensuring technology truly serves users effectively, meets their real needs, and doesn't just satisfy some technical requirement list.
Think back to that mobile banking interface example mentioned in the sources. Clear navigation, readable text, a logical structure, intuitive interactions. These basic usability elements take complex financial tasks and make them simple, accessible, and reliable for millions of people.
Yeah, it demystifies it. So the final powerful takeaway from the material seems to be this. Usability isn't optional, it's essential. It requires prioritizing user needs right from the start, rigorously testing designs with real people, and continuously iterating based on their feedback. Great usability is never an accident. It's the direct result of intentional user-centered design.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
We've explored the foundational principles, the key metrics to measure success, and even peeked into the cutting edge of what interfaces might become. Hopefully, this deep dive into your sources has given you, our listener, a completely new lens through which to view the digital world.
Yeah, it's about seeing past the surface, isn't it? Understanding the underlying architecture of interaction that shapes so many of your daily experiences online and with your devices.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to carry forward. Based on everything we've discussed today, especially those glimpses into AI personalization, emotional intelligence, and gesture interfaces, how might understanding these building blocks of usability fundamentally change the way you look at the apps and devices you use every single day? What hidden design decisions, maybe both good and bad, might you start noticing now, armed with this knowledge? Something to think about.